I'm a Gen X. My lens and my experience and my views doesn't necessarily have to align with today's modern day society and era. And I think we are seeing a shift and a decline and falling off the cliff on what masculinity should be looking like and what's the definition of a real man, right? And this video isn't about gender wars or the male and versus the female. I'm not going to go there. Although there could be some elements of it, but this video is essentially sharing my experience in a lens and a light that I grew up at a time where men were simply men. What do I mean by that? My father really was a primary breadwinner. And although he got struck with Parkinson's very early in his life, in his 30s, he later passed at 73, and I have a playlist on this. You can check it out. My mother was, on the contrary, at the time when he married her, was a very traditional, very good-looking girl, and I can see why he picked her. But she turned out to be a really crazy woman, and I don't have a relationship with my mother at this point in my life, and she's alive and she's well in California. So all of that to say this is that I saw my father, the way he built a home from the ground up, from scratch, being part of an architectural design team, sketching back in the day, right? We would do the sketches, and from the development to the foundational, laying the foundation to finally seeing the finished product and moving into that home, a 5-bedroom home with a den, little rental unit downstairs. Massive, massive. It was the thing to do back in Fiji Islands where I was born. And he was way ahead of his time. And then he gave this life to my mother. So they essentially were married when this happened, but at some point my father sold the dream to my mother and pulled her out of this nasty village that she was living in, and didn't just promise her a beautiful life. She followed his lead, and then it happened. He fulfilled those promises. So he led, she followed. He led, she followed. There was a 10-year age difference, I think 10, 11-year age difference between them, which is nothing. And so I was coming up the ranks as a little boy, and I would observe my father always working. He had a toolbox. He was always working on his cars. He was a big car guy. We would do car washes, right? And he would spank me. Like, I would get hit quite a bit, and he would use the belt to whip my ass in shape, and I think I needed all of it. I think if it wasn't for all of that, I wouldn't be half the man I am today. And although I don't really have a lot of good memories of him later in his life, all those things, they say that your brain develops fully by the time you're 8 years old. He did the right thing, man, because I was at age 15 when cognitively he started showing signs of Parkinson's and the onset came in. So I have 15 years of good memories with my father. Of course, the next 30 years, not so much. But those 15 years was enough. He did enough for me to draw from. And even today, I have the memories that, kind of flash back and remind me of the boy I was and the man I've become today. So why am I starting this as such? Is because growing up, I was already exposed to the harsh realities of what a man should be and the frame that you operate from, and doing the right thing, but masculinity, never to lose your masculinity, right? There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. I think they are toxic people. And what I have come to see in the last 10 years is the degradation of men in general. Men wearing dresses, the transgender agenda, the enforcement and indoctrination of, strong alpha men. God forbid that we work out and lift weights, which I do, could be deemed as toxic as well. I come from a generation where we had to fight. I talk about growing up in New Zealand, getting bullied and learning martial arts and then fighting, right? It's a chapter out of my life straight from the movies, Karate Kid. I lived it. I was Daniel LaRusso. I had to fight my way, not just one guy, but I had to fight his friends. Later on, I got Asian friends like Vietnamese. There's a lot of Vietnamese people in New Zealand at that time. and we became a band of brothers. I still remember them. And for me, we're still those little boys even until today. And some of these Vietnamese guys could fight, man. And so the thrashing began. It was like you, us versus you. Come on, right? I'm the only South Asian guy with the Vietnamese guys. And guess what? My dance background comes from hanging out with them, Filipinos, Vietnamese, and fighting, because they would all be martial artists, some of them. And so my chapter began as a man, as a young boy, is that this is how I grew up, right? Sports, you think about the type of sports I played in back then, was pretty aggressive. Rugby, even soccer, testosterone, right? Cricket, all the British sports there. You can, of course, translate some of this into American sports as well. But today you get a little scratch and you get a little shoulder, or you get a little, bump. It's looked as toxic masculinity. We need to soften it. So boys are given girls' toys. Boys are being indoctrinated to figure out who they are, when clearly biology has already told you who you are based on how you were born. Should I go there? Biologically speaking, we have certain tools and certain body parts, certain functions that cannot and should not be reversed, in my opinion, or messed with. And I think this is where parenting comes in. I have seen lately that some of the parents are taking a stance against what they're teaching in schools, right? Which is the agenda, the machine. And it's precisely why I voted the way I did for the first time after being for a certain party. You could take a guess. I didn't do any better. I'm from California, 20 years over there. So how do you think I voted there? Once you start thinking for yourself and independently, you start seeing the effery that's going on right now with boys, with men, right? So this quote unquote the male loneliness epidemic, right? Men are staying in their lane. Men are silently suffering. It's tough to be a man, right? As it is. Society deems us as evil creatures. We don't need men. Women are being surveyed. Men are the bear. They pick the bear all the time, right? 90% of the time. And men are simply not needed is what the messaging is. So we need strong men. We need role models to guide kids and boys and show them what a real man is. The true strength of masculinity is realizing and recognizing your power, your strength, not just physically, right? But here in spirit, and knowing that you could exercise it, but you have restraint. And then how you teach, how you pass on your teachings to the next boy, to the next man, how to treat a woman properly. But these women today want to play the games. They don't want a gentleman. I am a gentleman, guys. At heart of hearts, I am a gentleman. But the sad part about society today is part of being a masculine man is also having that feminine energy in your life that gives you that balance. You ever be with a feminine woman and the pheromones and the vibes? Man, it's so powerful. It just gives you that, man, it's such a high, it's a lift. It complements the masculine frame. Right? But as I talk about, brutally being honest in my videos, that most of these girls are not worthy of just getting that treatment. They don't care about men. They are more into the games versus appreciating a man, right? Now, if you get into the biological aspects of it, he must be 6'5", he must have a six-pack, he must have a 10-pack ab, he must make $1 million. We're kind of gotten out of hand there. We've just lost our sight, honestly speaking, because those expectations are very unrealistic. But I come from a time that we didn't emasculate men this way. The media, the machine, the news, the propaganda, it's all designed to keep us mute, neutered. That if we have an opinion, keep it to yourself. And if you disagree, you're toxic. Words like misogynist is being thrown around without knowing the definition of what a misogynist is. Misandry, misogynist, hatred for women, hatred for men. Let me be very clear that this channel, I don't hate women. I love women. I've had quite a few girlfriends in my life. I've shared my experiences with my recent girlfriend. She's from Colombia. She still lives here in Las Vegas. You can check out my playlist. She's on there. You figure out how I treated her. Does it look like hate? No. See, the men's space today has erupted, and the reason why I have also taken a stance is because I have faced the effery in my own personal life. I'll give you a very clear example, and I've already talked about this, but this got out of hand. I recently dropped out of my acting classes completely. And while I'm in entertainment, if you're finding this channel, I'm an actor, I'm also a model, I'm signed to a talent agency here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Previously, I was an R&B pop musician. I have a ton of music videos, and my social handles are within my channel. You can take a look at my profile. You'll know where to go to. My IG pages are all linked. Give you a snippet of my lifestyle. Once I transition into acting, and I can still do music videos, by the way, but it's just not something that I'm pursuing anymore. The beautiful part is that you could flip the switch on and it's game on. But I digress. So my acting classes is led by a female teacher and a female director per se. So it's female led, which is fine. I'm okay. I actually respect both of them. I looked at the older, she's in her 60s, I think, or 70s, and I respect her. I look at her as a mother figure. Where things went south for me is when she started coaching me and coaxing me into doing homosexual or gay roles, right, and reading gay scripts, and also transgender curriculum in the class. So when my class began, I took 6 months off her. It's a private lesson, it's a little community, good people, right? But I tell you, man, the first few months I was rocking. I was probably the best actor because the scripts I was getting was phenomenal. Love, romance, drama, right? Emotions. We were practicing all of this. And I don't know what happened. In the third, fourth month, she all of a sudden just injected the woke curriculum into class, and I would say closer to 50% of the class was around reenacting gay scenes and transgender scenes. And then we have a play coming up. I'm no longer part of it. I've already stepped out, but she's encouraging football players of a local league here. These are able-bodied men to come out and support the cause, which is great, I think. But these guys are chads. Like, I'm talking about alpha dudes, right? Over 6 foot, 15-pack abs. And she's given them the memo that it would be fun for you all to wear dresses and come as drag queens and be second round judges, just to make it fun. Just to make it fun. Like, we're going to gloss over the fact that, one, they represent a high profile team. And, football players essentially are looked at as like the status, right? The symbol of men. That's like a manly sport. And so they were given this fun, quote unquote, also they dress it up with word salads, that it's going to be very fun. None of them took a stance, and all of them just said, yes, ma'am. Granted, these guys are very young, in their 20s. And thus far, I've been just listening with my eyebrows like, bro. And I'm screaming, no, F no, this is wrong. They don't know any better because they're not thinking for themselves. They're being a bull ring, and they're just being pulled and guided to the slaughterhouse. See, what you don't realize, guys, is encouraging this behavior and indoctrinating and pushing this down onto us guys. Now, half of the population, this has become normal. Like, you don't even think for yourselves. And you know what? The opposite agenda, women, are not saying anything that this is very feminine or this is effeminizing. The women are not speaking up and defending us either. But should we do anything that's aggressive and in our defense and biologically, that's what's innate with us, right? If we enforce ourselves a little bit and apply a little bit of force and move a certain way, push someone, it's toxic masculinity. we have an opinion. Oh, it's toxic masculinity. He's a misogynist. That's what we're up against, guys. And I've faced this real time. And I was in the same room when this discussion happened. And I, at that time, didn't have there was no friction, but it's the first time I actually said, that's weird, to my teacher. I said, that's weird. Her name is Rebecca. I said, Rebecca, that's weird. I wouldn't want to wear a dress. I was just very free spirited. And I just said, I don't want to wear a dress. Why would I want to wear a dress? This is where she came to know my age, my background a little bit, because all this time she thought I was in my late 20s or early 30s, right? And I get that a lot. So once I told her, she goes, oh, yeah, it makes sense. It's because you come from a different generation. And I looked at her and I just said, okay, well, you're a lot older than I am. You could be my mother. You come from a time where acting and all this effery that we're seeing wasn't mainstream, and we didn't even know what it was. And why can't we keep the classroom a safe space and really, cut out and not indoctrinate and bring in the woke agenda? And then I was being coaxed into doing Marilyn Monroe roles and speaking in a feminine voice, which I can do. And I think it's comedic in my culture. Actually, it's very funny. We do a lot of these skits and, men throw on these female traditional outfits and we do this dance. And a lot of times we're drunk. It's for fun. It's hilarious, guys. It's hilarious. And it's a cultural, I get it. But now we have crossed a different territory here, guys. Now you're asking me to compromise my manhood as my spirit. And I said no to all of this shit. And she started feeling some sort of way. And when she started feeling some sort of way, she and I got on the phone call. We didn't argue. I just gave her my opinion. And I gave her my synopsis of my childhood, my background, where I came from, how my father was, and how cruel and toxic my mother was. And you reminding me of my mother is because she tried to emasculate us boys, and she emasculated my father to the point where he got sick, a mental condition, foot on the neck his entire life. He was never enough. Now she's doing it to us boys, right? I gave her this backstory, my background, and which I shouldn't have. I regret doing it, but I was almost overly apologizing and accommodating because she was offended that I wouldn't do all of these things. I was the only man in class that took a stance. At this point, it's got nothing to do with age because there's other older students in there too now, Gen X's. But I was the only one that spoke up. And then as I continued to go to class, as I try to move the story onward, there were more of these scripts that I'm getting. There are more of these transgender and gay roles and script readings as such. And I'm like, nah, okay, I'm done. I did it to appease you, even though I didn't want to do it. I thought this was a bunch of nonsense. And then I shared the movies on how, I grew up in the Van Damme, Sylvester Stallone, Rocky Balboa, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jet Li, Bruce Lee, Jason Statham, all of these, Vin Diesel, all of this, like, fight movies, right? We were trained to these soundtracks. But no, they don't want to. That's all toxic. We don't do this anymore. And you wonder what's happening to our men of society and the boys today. They don't even speak for themselves. And so I said, you know what? I'm not going to do this. I am out of here. And surely but slowly, I got made out to be this really bad, toxic, misogynist, evil guy that hates gay people and hates transgenders and all this. I don't hate anyone. Let me be very clear. I don't hate anyone. You do you, man. You love what you love. You want to get your parts chopped off? Go right ahead, man. I'm not going to try to talk you out of it. I'm not that guy. My brother, my middle brother, he just came out of the closet. He's gay. So I still love him. And he actually, props to him, came out on the video and did his thing. I don't agree with entirely everything that he said. That's fine. He at least had the courage to finally come out 20 years later. He's been living with it his entire life. I personally think it has a combination to do with how we were raised. And I think that may have had some impact, but I don't know any better, right? All I knew is, man, I want to fight. I want to be in martial arts. I want to get the hot girl, just like in the Bollywood movies. And I got some pretty nice, pretty chicks in my lifetime, even until today. So I'm not a dating advice. I'm not a dating guru, but I do decent. I miss my father. I miss my father. He would have been very proud of me because I've taken this stance as a man. And there's a fulfillment inside you, right? That all it takes is one guy, one man to stand up and say no to the effery. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to wear a dress. I'm not going to do this role. And I think that there's something wrong with the whole Disney agenda that's enforcing a lot of these. I mean, look at Cinderella, right? I think it was an epic flop where the happily ever after, there was no prince. They said flat out, we don't need a prince. What a way to F up a classic movie. What a way to F it up with the feminism, woke ideologies all over. Not just that movie as an example, but it goes to show you even movies are feminizing and telling men like myself that I am toxic. So if I'm feeling the heat, imagine the little boys and the little teenagers and young men who are blindly saying, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, I'll wear the dress, I'll wear the lipstick. And then young girls, your future daughters of today, they want to be led by a man. It's like you wondering what happened to the men. Don't say what happened to the good men. Where are all the good men? Just what happened to men. The last note is I got another script 3 weeks ago, and I responded to the director, very firm email, and the script was a one pager where she I thought this was about two brothers, but as I read the script and got to the bottom of it, I failed to read the in between the lines, but actually the scene starts off with two guys in bed spooning each other, and the scene ends with one guy has an erection, right, sticking into the other guy's butt, and they're signaling to each other that it's time to have sex. Needless to say that the dialogue that they were having, the spooning session in the bed, is repulsive to me. That's not my cup of tea, bro. I don't rock that way. You know, you do you, like I said. But it was such an insult that I said, you know what, F this. I'm just having to go around with my casting director, my teacher, right? And now I get this. I was like, nah, you're going to hear from me. So I gave her my peace of mind as to why this is offensive and we shouldn't be putting out these kinds of scripts. I'm making a difference, guys. So I am being the voice. I am not going to sit here and let myself compromise myself this way. And also not just be quiet about it. I'm taking a stance. This is what masculinity should be. This is what masculinity should look like, in my humble opinion. You should be able to speak up and hold frame and just say no to the effery. Just say no. This is absolutely bizarre. I ask you all, raising sons, have a brother, your father, your future husbands, is this the direction you want men to go? Because it's collapsing. We are being impacted in the West. While it's happening at a scale that may not impact your home directly, I'm telling you, men like myself, we face this every single day. This is a battle I fight with myself every single day. And the battle is speaking up. The battle is saying no. Enough of the bullshit, guys. Let's get back to work and let's embrace masculinity and be proud about it. How are we going to send our men to war? Most of them don't even want to go to war. The hard work, the process, the discipline. We are running out of mentors and guides and true role models for our boys. Because it's our men that really build the foundational pieces of society. Again, I promise to not make this about gender wars and equality and all of that garbage and bullshit. I just did. God, man, I can't help myself. There's a lot of misinformation out there, guys. If you look at how things... If I was to land the plane on this, look at how relationships used to thrive back in my days. There's a reason why those marriages stayed together for 15, 20 years. And now granted that some of them would eventually foil out and end, but there was a lot of value. There were lessons learned from it, right? There was longevity. It was sexy to be in a long-term relationship because we had the dynamics of a man and a woman. These days, most women are selling their nannies online. We have only fools. Men, we don't have a special tool that we can sell for millions and millions of dollars. I think one off there could be a case to be made, but let's face it, guys. Porn and prostitution are the oldest professionals and industries that thrive and continue to do so. And it's not male dominated and led, it's female. It's not me just making this comment. That's historical. That's where money goes, money flows. It's going all there. Where money goes, money flows. Where she goes, money flows. It's sad. I don't do any of this only fool stuff. I don't subscribe to that. I say as a man, if you want to meet women and if you're struggling in your dating life, is to do it in real life, man. Don't be scared of rejection. Go out, get into self-improvement is what I say. It'll get you more in tune with your masculine side. It'll induce testosterone. It'll sharpen your mind. It'll give you the confidence you need to go out to speak to women. Cold approaches is another story. We can get into that another time. I'm decent at cold approaches. That's how I get my dates. I would like to see a U-turn on all of this, which is why I voted the way I did. I would like to see a U-turn and complete reversal, is because we are not at a good place with guys, with our men, with our brothers, with our boys, questioning our identity 24/7. I mean, I am questioning everything that's coming at me, but I have a frame. Like, you can't F with this frame, man. You're not going to indoctrinate me, bro. Like, I see right through that. The way you do it is when you get punched in the mouth like that, because it's offensive to me. When you get punched in the mouth, you punch right back. And if they say misogynist, if they say, oh, you are this, you just punch right back right then and there and tell them how wrong they are. Because society is not accustomed to and used to resistance, men speaking up. We have women speaking up all across the internet, boy, for decades. And some of y'all have big mouths, man, loud mouths, and no one's marrying you all. Most ages, but especially the older ones, the older you get, your mouth, man. Good luck finding a good guy, a real man. The better we treat our men of society today and our boys is the better they can protect and serve their society. Look over their brothers and sisters and your future potential girlfriends and your partners and do the right thing. Open the door. When a woman is being jumped and abused and raped in some instances, you're not just standing on the train and on BART, right, and watching and looking the other way. That's what's going on. Men are not stepping. We're not doing none of that. We're not doing that because we were told, do not open the door. She's got her own two hands. We don't need you. We don't need you. We just don't need you guys. And then today, men will kill men for being a man. In fact, I would argue that the biggest threat to men is other men who don't have it together, who are sold a bunch of lies and who've actually crossed over into the other realm, and it's hard to bring them back. Which is why the men's space has taken off. And there's more of us. And I didn't want to take a back seat to all the nonsense because it's impacted my own life. I've actually lost friends over politics. I've lost friends and family over politics. I don't care. My life and this agenda is in my home. I go outdoors and I bring it back home, fighting these battles every single day. And these arguments are not good, man. These are not pleasant arguments. And sometimes you just have to be very careful on where you are, what you're saying, and your opinion. Up and until it impacts me and approaches me and tries to poke at me, then you're going to hear it from me. Other than that, I'm not trying to save you, man. If you would like me to be your coach, I offer customized one-on-one coaching. You can DM me on Instagram for a free 20-minute introductory call. Based on my experiences in life, I've seen a lot. I've been through a lot. I'm a pretty well-structured, disciplined guy when it comes to self-improvement. I know a thing or two about life, and I can help you unlock some of life's barriers, help you become unstuck. Because I tell you, some of us guys, some of us men, we really need it. We really need it. I'm so fired up right now. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Appreciate you all. Until the next topic and video, Mamba out.